Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you, as you might have seen in the thumbnail, we've cut off the seals. So we've cut off the outer seal, we've cut off the centre seal piece and the reinforcing to get to the centre piece and the actual inner seal. So I'm going to show you what we found, because you remember these seals looked pretty good apart from a little bit crushed at the front and back on both sides. We know there was a bit more rot at the back. The fronts didn't look too bad. So I want to show you what I've found now that I've cut these off. So you'll see here that I've got the bits laid out on the floor. Now straight away you can see there's areas of rust that are worse than you would have thought. So this was the back section we knew was corroded. We've cut it away there. I cut a bit out, then a bit more to look at stuff. And then once you actually cut the outer seal off, as you can see, this bit would go on there. You can see these patches of corrosion. Now, they're worse nearby. All these holes here are from where there was spot welds, but the corrosion is worse where the bodywork clips were. So this hole here, where my finger is, was one of the bodywork clip, and then same up here. Excuse me. So you can see the corrosion there. Now it started to go through. I managed to punch a hole through that one once I'd cleaned it, that you couldn't really see. So there's definitely worth cutting them off, and like everybody says with the Subarus, what you can see on the outside is only the tip of the iceberg. So that's the outer seal. Now this is the reinforcing. If I just get myself a little bit lower, you can see what I've done. I've cut the outer seal here, the reinforcing just here, because the reinforcing will be welded back on. Now the area towards the back, this stops around here, so it doesn't extend all the way to the back. This is just like a waxy bit there. Now we're good until we get down to here. Very light corrosion. This is around 1.2 to 1.4 millimeters thick. So there's no issue there. I can just clean that off. And then again, a little bit more here. And that's where that rusty patch was, sitting by this one, because again, bodywork clip hole, bodywork clip hole, bodywork clip, or should I say side skirt clips. So once this bit's cleaned on, this will actually be welded back onto the car, and it will roughly go there. I'll leave a little bit of a gap, and then the reason why I cut it below the outer seal is so you can get to it and you can weld it back on. And then lastly, we've got the vertical upright section, which is your reinforcement, which is your middle skin of your pinch weld. So you've got the inner, the centre and the outer. Now this is corroded at the back, but it's not crazy, but it's not going to last long. I could have got away with maybe cutting around here and leaving the middle, but there was no point while I'm doing it. And I found on the front of the car up here, you can see it was actually corroded into two parts. So let's just get the torch and I'll show you where we're at. So the corrosion was on this bit here. You can see up in there, everything right up in the car is good. Now obviously the lips are corroded. You can see the top there, you got a little bit of surface rust there, a little bit there, and the worst bit is along here. But again, it's just on the surface, so I can get away. Excuse me, I looked in here with like a bore scope, little camera, and saw this section. Now I know it's not going to rot through because we've actually removed all the seam sealer from out here to make sure the panel is absolutely solid, which it is all the way along. If I show you the other end, all the way till we get to the area at the back. So I wasn't fussed, right, I wasn't fussed that this section was in jeopardy of rotting out. So I'm going to clean this, and I'm not going to cut this bit off. I'm going to clean this, and then I can spray in there, I can treat everything, and then what we'll do for our vertical reinforcement. As much as it would be nice to have an OEM piece there, for example, this goes here. You can see that all lines up lovely, but what we're going to do is we're going to end up with a completely flat piece of steel going across it that will just be welded along these areas. So rather than being a full circle here, there'll be a flat piece of steel, obviously with no holes in it, that will come down level with the inner sill, pinch weld section there, whatever you want to call it, the drop down. So yeah, we'll have a nice new bit of steel that comes down, then we'll weld the reinforcement back in, and then we'll weld a new outer sill onto it. So I just thought I'd show you what was inside. So yeah, once again, that's what you're up against. It's pitted, but it's not compromised. It's hard to get a light in there, luckily. So we done okay there. I say done okay, it's not great, but it's not terrible. It's just a shame I'm going to all this effort. I wish this was an STI, which I couldn't afford at the time, don't get me wrong, or now even, let alone at the time. I'd have liked to have put all this effort into a car that would have been higher value later on down the line. Now we've got the same on the passenger side. There's the rust on, this is the outer sill. So you see from there, it doesn't look too bad, and that's what's hiding inside. So last too much longer, it would have gone through eventually, and that's the rear end that again was scabbed up and had more holes in it. This front section hadn't actually gone through. You can just see where the pinch weld was crushed and looking a bit dodgy there. So yeah, that's the outer. Reinforcement, exactly the same. It's grotty, but it's nowhere near compromised. So we'll just clean that up and that will be welded back on. Just needs a little tickle. And then this one, the vertical middle skin, whatever you want to call it, a little bit of corrosion there, bit more corrosion on the inside. Could have probably got away with it. Not at the back, obviously. At the back, it needed cutting out anyway. So therefore, same as the other side, I thought if you're going to do it, just do it properly and take it off completely so we can get to everything. And I'll just show you inside. Here again, same as the other side. We've got surface rust in there. Front, relatively good. That'll clean up, no problem. Even that will clean up nicely. And in a future video, I'll show you it cleaned up. Did the same on this side underneath. Removed all the seam sealer from the sill. The inner sill section to make sure we're good, because the worst case, I could have cut here and remade this. If this was compromised, which it isn't, it's absolutely perfect until you get to the back end. Try and come back here. Even this front end is still nice and good here. So we've got no reason to cut any of this off. You can see here, people have jacked up. It really pees me off, that does, that people have jacked on that and squished it in. But what can you do? The car's 20 odd years old. Can't do much about it now. So once again, up in here, everything's looking good. Now the rear end, we'll clean up. Same thing again, a little bit of surface rust. There's your two captive nuts, which are for your outrigger brackets, your diff transom brackets, whatever you want to call them. So that one, for whatever reasons, a little bit scabbier. That one, spotlessly clean. So again, we'll wire wheel all this, we get it cleaned, nice back shiny metal, and then before we put in a new drop down piece, we'll treat all of this with like the Hydrate 80, something like that, for a rust preventative. Give it a nice coat all the way along, and then we'll give it a top coat of some weld through primer, probably a zinc weld through primer, and then obviously we'll do exactly the same. We will drop down a new centre reinforcement out of 1.5mm steel, and then we'll weld our original inner sill section reinforcement back in, and then you'll have a new outer sill. Now, I'm no car guy, in the sense of, I say no car guy, I'm a car guy, but I'm no bodywork guy. I've absolutely no idea how I'm going to build the backs up properly, because we've got the arch section This side doesn't look too bad, but you can see there's surface rust on there, and it's just starting around there. Once you get up top, it's relatively good, but I've got the arch sections and I don't know what to do. I'm going whole hog, so last thing I want to do is have it rot out on me at a later date after you've done the done all the work on the seals. So part of this, not all of it, but part of this may need to be cut out, possibly all the way round, and the new lip welded in. I just don't know how you go about putting the inner to the outer. When you see people fit these, you don't see them really do anything with the inner. So I don't know how that works. You see them cut it off, but this is, again, spot welded inner to outer. But once they cut it, they're not replacing the inner. So I don't really know how that works. I'm not sure. Not too sure about that. So we've still got to work out what we're going to do about building them up. Now, coming on to the driver's side again, obviously we had the rust in the fuel cap, and I wanted to double check all these arch areas. So this took me around about maybe 2 to 3 hours today, whilst the machine's running, for me to get in here with a wire wheel and remove every piece of seam sealer. So you can see up there, everything's removed. We've got no grot there. We had the bit we've cut out around the fuel cap. What's annoying is, it appears that from factory, they only put the seam sealer up to a certain point. And then you can see that the arch is all pitted. You know, it's not completely rotten there, but you're starting to get surface rust there, and we're getting surface rust here. So it's almost like they didn't put the seam sealer right to the outer edge, maybe because it was difficult to not get on the paint. I don't know. So same on this side. You can see pretty much, if I just lean down, all the way around where it's not had the seam sealer. Now the last bit we want to get into is just up here. We haven't got any holes as yet, but that bit there, you can see, it's not a hole as such. Well, I suppose it is. It goes from this panel here to this one to the inner. There's a section that goes through to the fuel cap. Now, I'm guessing it shouldn't be corroded away there. So we need some sort of tiny little repair there, or I'm going to speak to the body shop about how difficult it is to replace part of it. I wonder if you can cut this arch around here, go all the way up, cut up into that section, and basically cut right around here, so you don't have to take the quarter panel off to get to it. I have no idea how hard that is. That would be beyond my level of bodywork skill. But yeah, that little hole that you can see goes through into there. See it in there? And you can see it's rusty. So I poked through there. There probably would have been, well, there was seam sealer up in there, and I've managed to sort of prod around and see what's what, and you can see that there's crud and a bit of rust underneath. So again, if I turn that torch off, the last thing I want to do is go to all this effort and then a year or so down, I don't know how long I'll keep this car, who knows. Regardless, I'm at the point now, doesn't matter if I'm selling it, I'm not going to bodge anything up when you go into this level, this much effort. So I'm going to speak to the body shop about, you know, I don't want to, not that I don't want to pay to take the whole quarter panel off, but that's going to be crazy expensive because they're going to have to put the same quarter panel back on. So I don't know what they can do about getting up in there, or whether I just try and cut it out and get up in there and then re-seam seal it. I don't know. Like I said, I do have the complete inner arch for the passenger side and the driver's side, as I've shown you in the past, genuine Subaru full inner arches that will cover all that area. And I've also got the import car parts, repair panels that come down here and go around all the way there. So I've got the bits that are all rusty, I've got everything to do it. I just don't know how I'm going to do it. So I'm waiting for the bodywork guy that I know to pop in one day and have a look. I'm going to get the other wheel arch stripped, bare metalled tomorrow. I just want to check there's nothing hiding behind the seam sealer in here. But geez, this seam sealer, in areas right in this corner and all around here, it was around 15 millimeters thick. And it was pretty epic to get it off. You can see a couple of holes in this bracket, not on the bodywork, just in there. This was all full of stones and mud. So it's just right just in them top, because it was packed to mud up to about here behind the brake pipe. So this is still okay. Obviously I've got to grind away this bit of sealer, but I've got my homemade axle stands under there, my big bad boys. So I can weld that up. We found a hole in here. I said before it just looked like surface rust, but I give it a prod and there was a hole. But again, this is part of the inner arch that I've got. So yeah, that's it. I wanted to show you the inside of the sills really, just so people have a reference. If you're looking at doing yours, I've searched on the Facebook forums and internet, and plenty of companies that offer services to repair sills. No company in particular, but I've looked at some jobs that people have paid good money and they've not gone to this sort of, I say, effort. If you've got the car on a ramp and this is what you do, I wouldn't really call it a massive effort to be cutting out the outer, the reinforcement and the inner kind of all the way along to do that. Now, maybe it's me, maybe I'm finicky, but this is little things like this. I'm no expert and the car's got to go to the body shop, but things like this, and it's not that guys are doing it wrong or bodging stuff up, it's just maybe that's how they do it. But I want to go, I think you need to go a little bit further if you're going to do it properly, you know. Obviously, if you're going to get into removing quarter panels and replacing quarter panels, that's a different ballgame in regard to the body shop. But as far as repairing the seals, I've seen some terrible, terrible looking jobs where people have posted pictures, some people moaning that it was a bad job, other people saying, yeah, I had mine done, and you look and you think, oh, you know, I wouldn't be overly happy if I paid a lot of money to have that done. It's sort of thing, sort of job where you look, if your mate done it, fair enough, but yeah. So I can't talk really because we don't know how it's going to come out yet when I've finished it or what happens, but this is the length you need to go to, in my opinion, to get it sorted. And obviously we removed the wings because we wanted to get to this front corner, make sure there was no grot here. You can see bits of browning, obviously it's not even surface rust, just browning. Madness how Subaru didn't paint anything other than like the galvanised or whatever this dipped protection is that it had anyway, and then they just give it a dust in here and there. So I can go around with the Hydrate 80 and cover things like that, but I'll worry about that at a later date. We want to get all the back end done. So yeah, another update video on the Subaru, looking at rust, cleaning off seam sealer, checking the back end still. But please like and subscribe if you like the content. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again on the next video.